best fresh meat selection.
102.7 WMOM 823 now. Good morning. Chris here with you in the studio. And we're going to bring in our sister station in just a second. Hot Country Hits 99.9, home of your new country, your all-time favorites. It is 823. And talking this morning, Jaime Loney back in the studio with us. We've chatted with you, Jamie, in the past in regards to selling homes. And we took some tours there. And those homes go pretty quickly on the market, don't they?
They do, and they still are. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. All right. Well, this morning we're chatting with these two individuals. You've brought somebody with you, which is a neighbor of yours, right? Introduce Rick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Rick is my neighbor. He moved here from Indiana a few years back. He's a home buyer, and just wanted to share some experiences and maybe make some awareness of some things, even as an associate broker I didn't know, and we've been learning as we go, and I just want to raise some awareness of some things that need to be maybe addressed before people buy their home.
All right, let's talk about that over the next couple of minutes. We're also, we want to make sure that overall people in general, wherever they live, whatever communities they live, that they just make this checklist, right? And on that checklist, what are some of the standard things that are just known out there that we always have to be checking? And then what do we? Then those things that maybe we don't know that we should dive into. Let's start there, if you don't mind.
Yep, absolutely. So typically we have a seller disclosure form, and there's everything on there from well to your furnace. If you have a septic system. It could be everything from an attic fan to an alarm system on your house. But typically you're looking at a roof. There's things that if you have an inspection done, there's things they do, your inspector, but there's also things they don't unless you specifically ask for it. And I really don't know anybody who's gone the route where we're at right now, looking at sewer systems, and that is a big issue, and that's really what we're here for now, because that's not something on here. There is something that says city sewer system here, but I don't think people are aware their responsibility in that is way greater than they realize. So,
all right, so we'll dive into that here in just a moment. But we see some of those videos out there on TikTok and Reels on Facebook and so on and so forth about inspection of the home. How much of a responsibility is that of the homeowner or the agent and so on and so forth? There's some burden there too, right?
Yeah, there is. Yep. So the homeowner, if you're a purchaser and you want to have an inspection done, no matter what, you just should check everything. It could be termites. There's many things that could be there that you don't know about. So $450 on average is going to get you a good home inspection. And if there's an issue, you can address it with the seller. And if the seller agrees to fix it, they can, or you don't have to buy the house and they can move on to the next buyer. That's kind of how that works. And there's just things in the plumbing system that we're finding now that are not on other people, and we'll get into that if you want, and talk about that, because that's really, probably why we're here, just some awareness of some other issues.
All right. Well, and Rick, let's bring it over to you for a second, before we go too far there. And Rick, you new to the Ludington area, right?
Yeah, my wife and I bought our home here in 2013 and moved here full-time in 2020.
And what was that process like, if you don't mind? Was it an easy process? We always say it's very difficult to find homes here in the area. Was that a challenge for you?
I think in 2013, 2012 actually, when we were looking, we looked at about 40 different homes here before we finally decided on the home there on Ludington Avenue where we live. So, but there were a lot of availability back then. We weren't in the same situation that we are now, where homes move within a week of the time they go on sale. So, yeah.
Absolutely,
a little bit different environment.
All right, and one of the issues that you had, or I guess before we even go into the kind of the sewer side of things, is was there other issues that as a potential home buyer that you wished you would have known about, or you're glad that you checked this or that out?
Well, we did the right thing, and I don't know if it's mandatory here in Indiana, where we came from. It's not mandatory to have a home inspection to buy a home, but we had the home inspected here by a respectable inspector, and they found a couple things. They were corrected before we purchased it, but there's some things that you just don't know. And that's, again, to Jamie's point, that's part of the reason we're here this morning, to discuss maybe some of those things that people don't know. So,
All right. So Jamie, let's swing over back to you. And what are some of those things that, as a home buyer, we should know?
Water and sewer lines. So I would say everybody I've spoke to, unless they've had an issue, think that they are responsible for that water and that sewer line out to their curb and then under the highways or the roads, that, your city or county or whoever's going to help take care of that. Well, that's just, unfortunately, we found out the hard way, including myself, that is not the case. You're responsible right up to the middle of the road, and that includes tearing up the road, hiring MDOT, getting a contractor in to repair the road, to repair the fix under the road, anything that ties into the main line, and that's water and sewer. Okay. So that's really costly, and especially for somebody like Rick that lives on Ludington Avenue, this is an MDOT road. So it's not just shutting down a side street in Ludington. It's a big deal, and they don't want to shut down the road. And right now, this is an issue. We have a crack in the main. I'm tied to it. Rick's tied to it, and one other neighbor that's not here today is also tied to it. And we're talking an expense close to $45,000. So Rick had mentioned about, well, don't you tell him, like, for an average income family, how hard that would be on somebody to fix if they had to do that. We're hoping that we can try to maybe change some of the, I wouldn't call it a law, but an ordinance on that, and maybe we can, get some help or find, not necessarily for us at this point, but in the future for other people. I just can't see how they should bear all of that burden.
All right, so Rick, just to touch on Jamie's issue here and yours as well, your neighbors on Ludington Avenue, and this could happen in any community, wherever you're at, but in this particular case, you have identified a broken sewer line. I guess my question to this is, one, how did you identify that? And second, what's those conversations on how to fix it been like, if you don't mind?
Well, we discovered it. Our neighbor had a small backup in their basement. And since we're all three connected, eventually it would have backed up in our basement. But as soon as they noticed it, they called a service out and ultimately discovered that the problem wasn't between the clean out and their house. It was between the clean out and the main line, which was located under Ludington Avenue. So they ran a camera and discovered there's a crack, break in the sewer lateral, they call it, which is the homeowner portion of the whole sewer system. So that's how it was discovered. So there wasn't a lot of damage, but then the process was, well, how do we go about fixing it? So we contacted the city. Again, we were all under the impression that our responsibility ended at the curb cut, and that's not the case. And it was quite shocking to learn that.
I think most people are kind of surprised. I don't think many people realize that.
Well, okay, so, but again, Jamie, should that be something that the inspector understands, the real estate agent, stuff like that? Do you have to make sure that the homeowner knows that? So
that's exactly why I'm here as well today. I think that just needs to be more of a awareness, and obviously moving forward for myself now as a realtor, I would tell anybody that's buying a home in the city, hey, we need to hire, this is a separate inspection. Your typical inspector, they do not do this, but you can hire somebody like, any sewer company around that has a camera, there's a few, and have them inspect that. Because if you don't know, that could be more costly than the roof on your house, and you might not be able to flush a toilet. Okay. It could happen a week after you buy it, a year after you buy it, you don't know, So it's a big deal, and it's not a big deal until it's a big deal, and then it's a really big deal.
All right. And then I guess my next question is, you've been in contact with the city to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're in tourist season, so there's a lot of traffic through Ludington Avenue. It's hard to just, start construction on a major roadway. But this is also a highway, so this I don't believe is the city's responsibility. This is more of the state government responsibility. Is that correct?
That is the Claim on that, correct? Yep.
Okay.
It is, and
And so have you approached the state government in regards to MDOT and went that route?
we have. Yeah.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about that.
MDOT's definitely willing to help shut down the road. They just don't think it's the greatest time, but they know it's a critical utility, so they will. But in the meantime, we wash dishes and take showers at other people's homes, but we have figured out another way to do it. So we're all rotating, and I mean, it's not easy. So back to that, MDOT is willing to help. They think later in the year would be better. And in the meantime, we're, been asking the city for help or anything. Because if this was a side street, then it's still on the homeowner. It's not on the city either way. And the financial responsibility is completely on the homeowner. So I just think that this needs to be more, people need to be more aware of this. That's all. And something needs to be done to be able to help people, not just us, but in the future. We're figuring it out, but I can't imagine grandma and grandpa that have no clue what to do or maybe living on a really fixed income. This is a major problem.
Understandable. Rick, just for a moment here, so the financial responsibility lands on you as the homeowner to fix the sewer. MDOT is willing to make the fix, but at a later date. But then you just you pay your contractors to do it. You pay MDOT. What's that process like, if you don't mind?
Well, we're just kind of digging through it. Jamie had some discussions with MDOT the other day, and they were actually quite cooperative. They said they'll do it. We just found this out this week. They'll do it when they won't wait. They understand the urgency of this for the three families involved. So we've got some good response there. It's just a matter of working through the whole thing. We're not used to doing this as homeowners, right? This is just something you kind of take for granted. And I've never worked with a underground contractor. And so it's just kind of getting all those proverbial ducks in a row to make it happen. And it's boggling, right? So I think the cities will do what they can to help us and guide us through it, and which we're fortunate for that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hearing our calls. I mean,
Yes.
we've been knocking on their door asking for help, and we feel like the ball's moving a little bit. So hopefully that keeps rolling.
All right, that's good. And I would assume that you have to walk a balance here between obviously getting your sewer fixed, but also being able to it affects not just the three of you, but it affects the city in general, and so that's a big part of it. What is the next step for you? What happens next?
Well, the city has agreed to run a camera and double check before we spend this kind of money. We talked to the city yesterday. They're going to run a camera and try to figure out for sure right where we need to pinpoint where the break is before we just run in, cut the road open and spend that kind of money. So I think all in all, we're just trying to raise the awareness so people in the future, when they're buying a home, and I'm coming from the real estate perspective, that boy, oh boy, this time you need to get those lines checked, because this was a major shock for me, for Rick, a buyer in Ludington that was excited to come here, and then all of a sudden to have a major disaster as a home buyer. I never like to see that as an agent, either. It's, and I definitely wouldn't know as an agent what's going on under the road. So, yeah. Anyhow.
Well, and here I guess my additional question is, and this isn't isolated to Ludington. What if we, looked at Manistee, or we looked at Grand Rapids, or Chicago, or wherever? Have you checked, and is there any villages or cities that this is covered, and would do the repair?
Yep. So in a city, it is up to the city to decide if they want to or not. In a village, it's a state, I don't know how you call it, a requirement or whatever, but if it's a village like Pentwater, it is on the homeowner. It's a state requirement. It is on the homeowner. City, it's up to them. Different places, different townships, it's up to the township. PM Township, they take care of it. If something's matter under the road, the township takes care of it. I talked to PM Township yesterday just to confirm that. So I was like, well, that's great. I mean, I like to hear that, and hopefully we can get a little bit of help or some kind of funding, even partial cost for homeowners when they have something happen like this. I brought up city sidewalks. When I sell a house, if city sidewalk's broke, it has an inspection done, and the city pays for half of it, and the seller pays for the other half. So why couldn't there be something similar to that? I think that's a valid point where if that's an issue, but it's never an issue, like I said, until it's an issue. So I just think maybe everybody as homeowners, buyers, need to be more aware before they get themselves in this situation.
And don't mind me being sort of the other side of this for a moment and from time to time. But Rick, I guess the question is, when do you feel that your property stops and the responsibility of the township or the city or wherever the county begins? As a homeowner, where do you feel that is?
Well, I think the assumption, Chris, and it's been verified. I've talked to a lot of people over the last 3 weeks, and I've not talked to anybody that didn't think that their responsibility stopped at the property line or the curb cut. And so I think it's, again, to Jamie's point, I think we're trying to just create some awareness here. I was under that assumption, because I had some electrical work done, and I didn't pay anything. It came all the way up, and the wires were bad or something, and all the way to the house. They didn't, consumers or didn't charge me a thing. So I guess we just make that natural assumption that once it's beyond the property line, it's the responsibility of the municipal entity, whether you live in a township, city, whatever. And so I think we're here to create awareness. If you talk to your insurance agent, there are riders that are available to cover things like that in most cases. So most people wouldn't think of that, though. I never thought of that. And
so are you in that? So in regards to insurance, are you in that position where it's already happened and you don't have the insurance for that particular issue with your sewer? And so is this going to ultimately come out of your pocket or pockets as your neighbors?
Absolutely. It's going to come out of our pockets. And it's a big hit. And so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't think people were aware that insurance, I think it was just a couple of years ago, they added for underground utilities. So unless you've had the problem, or if you've had that conversation with your agent, it might not have been added on. Now, there are a lot of agents that might have brought it up to their homeowner, but it's just not something you think about because you don't see it. It's underground.
All right, so I guess my three final questions with you this morning, and we're talking with Jaime Loney, 5-Star Real Estate this morning. Rick as well, homeowner right next door. You guys are neighbors. With the sewer issue here under Ludington Avenue, and it sounds like it's an inconvenience. Obviously, you have to deal with showering in different ways. You can't flush solid substances, right, like your toilet paper and such.
Unfortunately.
But what about, Jaime, your other colleagues and real estate agents in the area? Are you having these conversations with them in regards to just making sure that the inspections happen, that the insurance, that the additional riders and such on insurance happen? Is that part of the conversation that you're also having out there?
It is. Every time I bump into one right now, another agent, I'm asking if they were aware, and I haven't ran into one yet that was aware. So we are having that, and I do think as we go forward, we'll probably have a few meetings about it, and I'll bring it up at more convention type situations where there are more agents that we can, make some more awareness so they can spread that word to buyers as well.
All right. Anything that we missed talking about this morning? It sounds like the ball is rolling. It sounds like obviously it's a huge inconvenience for you and something that, again, we don't think about if we're purchasing that home and that inspection. And again, I know I revert back to a bit of the when we're talking about when we're out. Sorry, they're doing some work in front of us. When we're talking about inspections, we see these reels, we see these videos online that we should be asking the inspectors to check this and this and this.
We should.
And I guess my last question in regards to that is, as a real estate agent, you are working with inspectors. Are the inspectors willing to look at some of those additional areas?
I think there's an opportunity there for an inspector to put an add-on to their business for sure. Maybe buy a camera, and I just think there's more opportunity there. for sure.
All right. We'll follow this subject. Obviously, we want to make sure that when we have our conversation with City Manager Mitch Foster, the mayor, and see what. But again, with it being a highway, MDOT is really it's the responsibility of MDOT to work on this.
Well, MDOT owns the road, and under the road is the cities.
Okay.
And any responsibility of financial that goes on the road or under the road is ours. That's what it boils down to.
Complex.
Yeah.
It's a complex situation, but yeah, it's interesting to follow up on this, and we'll
And for everybody. I'm not just saying for us. This happened to others 3 or 4 a year. My understanding, this happens to 3 or 4 people a year. So it's not a lot, but it's a lot when it does happen.
All right. Well, Jamie, we appreciate you coming in.
Yep.
We'll continue to follow this story. And Rick, same thing. And obviously, it's a inconvenience for you. But there's conversations with the city. There sounds like there's conversations with MDOT. Again, as a real estate agent, Jamie, you're always developing and learning new things. And obviously, we need to have conversations with our insurance companies to ensure we're not in those positions as well. But it's hard to push blame wherever, but it's especially when something like this happens, right?
Yeah, just trying to be more proactive now. I think that's the key.
All right. Sounds good. We appreciate the two of you coming in
Thank you.
this
Thanks,
morning.
Chris.
Yep, you got it. On 102.7 Mom FM. Stick around. We've got more information, more music on the way next on WMOM and Hot Country Hits 99.9.
Keeping you updated with our community calendar here at Mom FM, underwritten by Lakeshore Automotive.